Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to JonathanIsBadAtGames. Today we have a review for Octodad, Dadliest Catch, and I'm sorry that this is coming in a little late. I've actually made the review almost a week ago, but I tried to record it, and I forgot to record the audio, and then that was after I recorded the whole thing, and I got frustrated with it, so I decided it'd be best to let it lay until I'm not so upset that I lost the audio, so I could record it at a much better what's the word? In a much better mood. Excuse me. You stay over there. Broom. Okay. So basically what I did was I split Octodad, Dadliest Catch, or for my reviews I'm going to split them into 5 categories, and they're all going to be weighted equally for the final score. I'm going to try to be as even-handed as I can be, because otherwise, I just let my frustrations get a hold of me, and that's just not the kind of behavior that I want to be in a review. So, there we go. The first category that I gave it was mechanics, which I defined as the laws and rules that logically govern the reality of the world in which the game takes place. And I gave that a 7.8 overall, because the controls, well, not because of the controls, but the controls I felt deserved a 7, because they were creative and led to some pretty funny things, but at the same time, they were infuriating, and object manipulation came to be kind of a hassle. I went back and I got 100% of the achievements just because I wanted to be sure that I gave the game an even shake. I wanted to be aware of all of its challenges, and there was one part where it was one of the achievements was to save 15 of the kelp in Kelp World. And that is a lot harder than it looks, so I had the genius idea to try and pile up as much stuff as I could in front of the kelp to keep the balls from going in and hitting it. And getting things to stand up was so hard, and there was also it's not always when you're trying to break the game that it's obnoxious. It's also kind of hard when you're trying to throw things. It's hard to get the hang of, and for example, when I was at the church and I was looking for the ring in the box with all the stuff in it, it was hard to select a certain thing. His hand just wanted to go everywhere, and sometimes his legs didn't seem to work right, and it was just it was a pretty unique idea, and I'll give it credit for that, but at the same time I feel like it could have, I guess, used a little bit of tuning up to make it a little more friendly. Maybe that's the point of the game, and it just went over my head, but I think it could have done with a little fine-tuning, made it a little more accessible. Not that they didn't have an easy mode that made everything completely easy, but it's just an opinion. I felt it was really good though. I liked the control style. I played it several times through. As for level design, which is the way the world is, it's not necessarily the wrapper or the way it looks, it's just the way it is and how that interacts kind of with your control scheme. I felt that the level design was actually pretty solid with an 8.5. I wasn't fond of the levels on the ship where the boat was slippery. I thought that was a little much. I did not like some of the camera placements. I felt that some of those were needlessly infuriating, and I wish that sometimes it would just go to an overhead camera angle instead of on a wall with a box in front of it where you can't even see your character. That was kind of obnoxious. But otherwise, the levels were pretty varied. They had several good, unique designs. You walked around your house, you walked around the church, and then you went to an arcade, and there was a level that was completely dark. And I felt the level designs were pretty good. A lot of them were open, allow you to explore a little bit, and goofy, where you could do things and just be an obnoxious octopus and a nuisance to everyone around you. Gameplay elements, I gave an 8. And by gameplay elements, I mean things that aren't necessarily level design or the characters, just the miscellaneous things and how the levels are played out. I felt they were pretty challenging. I especially I don't know that I enjoyed the arcade. I did enjoy playing the games once I got okay at them, but the arcade was pretty infuriating. But they were challenging, and there was enough diversity. But some of them were annoying, the Deep Dark Ocean was extremely annoying just because I went down an escalator Like, I didn't walk down the escalator, I just rode down the escalator, and the girl got stuck at the top of the escalator and just started screaming. And as you can tell from my videos, I don't have a lot of tolerance when it comes to little girls screaming. But there was also... I also felt like there were a lot of unnecessary peels and puddles all over the place in some of the levels. And that got a little frustrating. But overall, I felt that the gameplay elements were pretty solid. It was a pretty strong game mechanically, I thought. So I gave it an 8. And that averaged to 7.8. Now, the next category I went with was graphics, which I described as the effectiveness of the visual decisions made to present the game and its content. Character design, really strong, I thought. They were memorable, they were simple and stylized. It wasn't over-the-top realism. I don't think that would have worked for this game. And it wasn't too simple. I liked the way the characters look. I thought they were pretty good, especially Octodad with his tentacles and mustache, and when he was naked, you got to see how exactly the tentacles worked to make the human body. I felt that was really nice. Really nice touch. The one complaint I did have was that the children weren't really distinguishable. When we were at the aquarium and I saw other children, sometimes I confused them for my own children, and maybe that's part of the point of the game. Obviously, like, you're supposed to feel like it's supposed to represent some kind of human interaction and how everyone's an octopus in their own way. And maybe you do forget your children. You can't always tell them apart. But I felt like if they had made our children a little more noticeable in the crowd of children, that would have been a little better. Like, the wife looked like a normal adult, but you could as soon as you saw her on the ship, you knew, hey, that's my wife. But maybe that's just because she was one of the only women on the crew, or on the ship rather. As for world design, which was the opposite, or not the opposite, but in combination with level design, I think that's what I called it, didn't I? I can't tell now, the slide's not in front of my face, but world design is like the wrapper of the world, and I really liked the design for the game. I thought it was engaging and bright, and the colors were nice and bright and vivid, and it was fun to go around and explore. I thought it was really good. I thought that there was a nice attention to detail, like the aquarium sign over the ticket booth was broken and it wasn't completely fixed up. I thought it captured everyday life pretty well, if not a little hyperbolically. You go to the store, things are broken down. They have annoying kids' machines right by the registers. I thought the world design was pretty clever. Special effects were pretty fitting and effective. You know, the fire looked like fire, the smoke looked like smoke. I liked it when the ink blots came up when you died. That was pretty good. I don't have much to complain about there. So overall graphics got a 9.6 out of 6. It was pretty fitting and effective, I thought. I thought it looked really good. Excuse me. The next category I went into was sounds. How well the auditory choices were at suiting and enhancing the player's experience. Voice acting was really good, I thought. Really good. Aside from perhaps the chef. Maybe the chef was a little bit too stereotyped. I don't know. I'm not one to usually complain about stereotypes, but maybe he spoke in broken English and he was a sushi chef. Maybe he was just a little bit over the top. But for voice acting, it was pretty spot on. I felt like that everyone sounded like they were in the right events, and the kids were spot on, but that was a bit of a double-edged sword right there. Because again, you got like Stacy upstairs screaming at you, and if you don't like being around little kids for long periods of times, and you gotta play levels with little kids, the voice acting is just really good. It sounds just like a little kid. Start to get a little steamy behind whoa now. Steamy was a poor choice of words. I was thinking like when cartoon characters got angry, the steam came out of their ears, but maybe using steamy to describe interactions with children was a poor choice. So basically that's what I meant. You get angry when you listen to children. And that was a double-edged sword. I didn't take off for it because I know it's supposed to be that way. So overall, voice acting was a 9.5 out of 10. Again, taking into consideration the possibility that the chef might have been a little bit over the top depending on your tastes for stereotype. Otherwise, it's pretty strong. Music, I felt the music was personally my favorite part of the game. I loved the intro was catchy. It was an earworm. You had Octodad stuck in your head forever if you listened to it enough. And the in-game music was phenomenal. The orchestrated opera blubs were just hilarious the first time through. I thought it was really good. I enjoyed it. I would buy an album and listen to it all the time when I walked around school. Sound effects got a little bit obnoxious right there. I'm not gonna lie. When I was spotted by the scientists and I heard the blurps over and over and over, and I just wanted to chop my own tentacle off and smack myself in the head with it, I felt it could have ended there. But overall, they were useful and they were fitting. And if you can get over the fact that they're obnoxious and repetitive, then they shouldn't bother you very much. So I gave it a 7. There wasn't a whole lot to go. Oh god, the banana peels in the water was another thing. Just hearing weep, weep every time, like every split second. If you put your foot too far in the center of it, you just slipped like 8 times and had to hear it, and just constantly reminded of your failure. That's why I didn't like it too much. It wasn't bad. Just personally, I thought it was a bit too much. So overall, sound got an 8.8 out of 10. Writing. The quality of the parts of the game that drive the story forward shape the world and develop the characters. Story was really good. Obviously, it was an allegory for real life. I don't know if it's really an allegory, but well, I guess it is because we're not actually octopuses. But it was pretty accurate. Well, okay, accurate in that it was hyperbolic of these things. Like, obviously, not everybody is an octopus, and they can't relate to an octopus trying to be a human other than through hyperbole. Story's really good, though. I connected with the octopus. I know what it's like to be not a father, but I know what it's like to try to go out and be in public and just be awkward and not... I guess it was a little more for me, like, when I'm out and about, I don't always know what to do with my hands, and I'm always, like, conscious of my hands and body posture and stuff like that. And when you're playing Octodad, Dadliest Catch, that is all you're constantly aware of, is where your feet are and where your hands are and why your leg is up above your head and you look like an idiot. Very powerful stuff there, or a very powerful connection, at least for me, the awkward and socially inept human being that I am. So the story was pretty good. It was simple. It was a feel-good story, I guess. But it was a powerful story with characters and stuff. It was nothing to complain about. 10 out of 10. Dialogue. I like the dialogue, but the puns, you cannot enjoy a pun without simultaneously hating a pun. And when you're frustrated at the game and they're just cracking these puns and you're like, I recognize that was a good pun, but that was a pun. And I'm the only one who's allowed to make puns. I feel like that's for everybody. Everyone likes making puns, but hearing puns is just not so good. So I give them their puns. There were some pretty good puns in there. I felt like the dialogue was realistic enough, like beyond suspension of belief when it comes to the Octodad himself. I thought the dialogue was pretty realistic. Okay, and also realistic in terms of the reality of the game, not necessarily real life. I felt like it was realistic within that world. I felt like the characters were in there pretty good, and the humor was spot on, and there was a little bit of social commentary about workers and workers being human too, at least. Like, they present the scientists, for instance, they presented the scientists as like these cold obstacles to get around without noticing you, and they're scary and intimidating, but then behind the scenes, they're like, I'm glad everyone left so I can tap on the glass, after warning everybody else not to. There are people just like us. They know Joe's in the coffee room making a mess. So that was pretty good. And Gervison's grocery store with the intercom guys talking. it was pretty good. Again, with the children, they were really good at dialogue with the children, and that just makes me hate them a little bit. So overall, I gave it a 9 out of 10 for dialogue. As far as enrichment goes, I'm using that as like lore and other little bits and tidbits that aren't necessarily like vocal, like they're probably actually text or pictures or stuff like that kind of shape the world. I really liked the way they did that. I liked that they put attention to detail. They had attention to detail, like when you first go to the aquarium and they have that little interactive map that tells you where things are and what they are. That was really a nice touch. The fact that they went into the detail of having things to read about them. I also liked the references in the grocery store that went back to other video games like Minecraft and Quap and the gaming YouTubers. I saw somewhere that they had more on like the coffee dispensers in the aisle, but I didn't personally see them. I think they were, I can't say for sure what they were, but I like the box of Scene Hanners. I like Scene Hanners. I like to watch his channel. Um, I thought they were nice touches. I liked the attention to detail. I liked the references, and overall it was just really good. I gave it an 8 out of 10. I felt like I felt it was good. I didn't feel like a lot of it added anything, but it didn't subtract from anything either. So I'm going to give it an 8. I'm not going to say it was super awesome. There might have been room for an improvement, but overall it's an 8. I don't have any personal recommendations that I can think of at the moment, but I felt like there could have been something more, just a little bit here and there. Then again, I could also be wrong there. I could be incredibly unfair. Maybe it does deserve a 10. Maybe they had plaques in the aquarium describing the fish. In fact, if I think about it, I think they did. I just didn't take the time to look at them. So you give yourself a little bit of your own personal opinion when it comes to, well, for any of this really, because it's just an opinion. But you might want to be a little more skeptical of my 8 on enrichment that brings it down to a 9.6 instead of, say, a 9.8. Something to consider. Trying to be fair here. I may have been a little biased on enrichment. I may have been a little illogical on enrichment. Just keep an eye on that one. He's a little shifty. And the final one I did was fun factor, which is how well the game does at making people want to play it. And I'm going to explain immersion there because that's a really low number compared to the rest of the review. Immersion was almost impossible. And I'm not saying like you have to believe that you're the character, but it's got to be, I feel like a game has to be smooth enough to forget that you're playing a game, even if you're not directly putting yourself in the character's role. And with Octodad, that was incredibly difficult, if not impossible. Because the only thing going through my head when I played Octodad was how frustrated I was at playing this game and failing miserably at it. And if it were just in the character thing, like, you can get frustrated at other games, but you're immersed because you feel like you're that character. Not so much with Octodad. When you're mad at the game, you are mad at Octodad specifically, and you want to put yourself in no spiritual relationship with him. It is not, man, I messed up. It is, Octodad, what are you doing? So for that, I gave it a 3. That's why it's so low. It's not super important to the game, perhaps, because the game was still really fun to play, and I would recommend it to anybody. But I don't know, maybe if the game was less frustrating, or again, if they made the controls a little fine-tuned, the immersion would be a little bit better. But autonomy was really good. They made the levels open and explorable, and they had a secret level, which was cool. I had fun playing the secret level. The hats and ties, where if you looked around you could dress Octodad up, was pretty funny. I didn't even realize they had butterfly clips in the level of his house until I put it on my head, and then I just looked like a sassy little guy. I liked the glasses at the grocery store. I liked all the hats. And the ties. The ties were interesting. Gave you a reason to explore. One thing is the stealth levels. I feel like stealth was a really interesting aspect of the game simply because of how the controls were and how you had to be creative with your solutions and climbing and stuff like that. Felt like it could have been a little more fleshed out. I felt like there should have been like alternate routes and stuff like that. It felt like it wanted you to go one specific way, and while it was possible to perhaps cheese your way through some of the parts, I feel like it could have been a little bit stronger. With a level that's got so much potential as a sandbox. If I can talk today, that would be really cool. A sandbox exploration game, if they had a little bit more choice when it came to stealth. Just a little bit. I feel like it would have been a lot stronger. But what really carried this game forward, which I put as a negative even though I didn't count anything off for it, because I don't think it should be the only thing that keeps somebody attached to a game, was that the feelings of accomplishment were ridiculous. When you get so mad at a part of a game, and you know you're playing on, like, you get to the point where you're playing on tilt, and you know that there's You know they're probably hindering your ability to play the game because you got such a raging headache and your face is all red and your eyes are watering and you're foaming at the mouth. But when you can overcome that challenge, when you can surpass the thing that just made you so angry, you just it is the best feeling in the world. You just feel all the tension leave your body and you just sigh and you just lean back in your chair and you're like, I did it. Octodad has a lot of those moments, some of them naturally, some of them are just challenges that can be self-imposed. But if you beat the game and you're like, man, that was really challenging, but I did it, and then you look at the achievements and you look at the fact that you got ties to collect, you want to go back and you want to challenge yourself again. You want to challenge yourself to do better than you did before. Octodad really pushes you to be better at the game. And the reward system I felt was really rewarding. You got to play a secret level. You got to dress him up in snazzy ties. You got to really experience the game a little more fully. Going for the achievements and going for the ties in particular. But I guess those are kind of tied to the achievements. It really changed the game a lot. Like, the second playthrough was a lot more difficult and interesting than the first playthrough in a lot of ways. Well, maybe not more interesting, just interesting in a different way. The reward system is really good. So overall, the fun factor is a 7 out of 10. Again, because while it's a really fun game, it's a really frustrating game. And if you're not somebody who feels as strongly about the reward system as I do, perhaps it is not the game for you. Because otherwise, it's just a big bundle of frustration. Otherwise, it was a really good game. And then finally, the bottom lines, and I give this to three types of people: the pessimist, who, or maybe people who think that a game is only as good as its weakest link. That's a valid point, I think. That's the pessimist in me anyway, is if I'm being pessimistic, I'd be like, Will, look at this low score, that's about all I'm going to get. So the lowest score out of all the 5 categories, not the 3, but the total categories, like total of the 3 for the big category, the big red number at the bottom, was a 7. So if you really just want to be nitpicky and stick it to the man, you're going to give it a 7 probably, I'd imagine. A lot of people would. Which is about a C- in school lingo. Or if you got a grade that was like a 70, that would be a C-. That's what I would give it if I were super pessimistic. As a realist, which is what I said before, where I took all the scores and I averaged them about equally, where the strengths is the kind of person who says a game should be held to its strengths and its weaknesses in a balanced fashion. 8.5 is what it was given totally, which I think is a relatively fair grade, and that is a B. If you're an optimist, which is, I kind of tend to be that way with a lot of games. My friends always, if they don't like a game and I go, well, they did this well, that's the kind of person I am. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. Game developers are people too. Not everything's going to be perfect, and sometimes you just want to focus on their strengths. And so I weighted in this one I weight the 2 strongest categories against the other categories and give it a different average based on what it did right. And overall, I gave it an 8.8, which is a B+. I feel like those are pretty fair scores. I feel like all of them are fitting, depending on how you want to look at it. Maybe you don't agree. If you don't agree, that's cool. It's just a review, man. You can have your own opinion. That's completely okay. I'm not trying to start any fires here. Okay, and that's it for the review. Unless final thoughts on the game. I really enjoyed it. If you go back and watch the videos, it may not look like I'm enjoying it because it's really frustrating. But again, the feeling of rewards just made it totally worthwhile. And the controls were wonky, and the gameplay was fun. It wasn't actually the first time I played it when I recorded it, so like, you didn't get to see the natural reactions, of course, like when I laughed at their puns and I found the references for the very first time. I didn't find Sea Nanners. That one I found on the playthrough. That was pretty nice, but it was a really fun game. I have not played another game like it, except perhaps for Surgeon Simulator. But compared to Octodad, I didn't even think that one was as strong in terms of reward. Octodad really did what it did well, and I think it accomplished its goals in making a fun game. And for as much as it cost, I'd say it was pretty well worth its money. It's a really fun game. I might go back and play it again if they add any updates. They've got the Steam Workshop up, which allows for you to do different things with the game and make different content for it. So I'd say if you got the money, pick it up, give it a shot. It's really nice. So thank you guys all for watching, and thank the developers at is it Young Horses? I think it's Young Horses, but thank them specifically for making the game for me to play and for letting people upload it to YouTube and give their opinions on it for other people to watch and for other people to play. It's a really good game. Thank you guys for making it. Thank the other people for distributing it, or if they distribute it, thank you for doing that too. That's cool. It's a really good game. I liked it. I give it a 8.8 personally, because I'm the optimist, right? Okay. Thank you guys for watching. Tune in next time. Sorry for this being so late. I wanted to record it while I was in a better mood, because when you spend so much time recording something and it goes wrong, that can be a little disheartening, and you just don't want to look at it for a while. But thank you guys for watching. I enjoyed playing it, and I enjoyed reviewing it, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.